We don't ever talk about it like this, but porn is a drug. What they would do is like you start watching whatever type of porn you like, right? And then it like kind of escalates and you'll have like 20 tabs open looking for the best one to finish, and then like it just all
then
kind
you're
of
down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're watching two dudes go at it. And it like that's what like kind of gets it like going. Like that's the next high.
One of the first clients we were working with was a porn company.
Legit.
What?
Like
legit.
like that point in time, they're taking literally anybody that would give us any amount of money to do anything.
I'll give you the backstory.
It's like the hottest girls ever on Instagram.
Oh,
like,
legit.
It's crazy.
And now it's a whole business model. So now that they're using the same marketing techniques that Kellogg's is to get you to buy your cereal, to buy pornography now. It's like insane.
Yeah. Oh,
it's absolutely insane. What got that rolling? Like how do you even get into that?
This was last year. I moved out to Texas, and my kind of like mentors and coaches there, they were running successful e-com businesses and everything, but they had like a better business, which was a coaching business. So it was teaching people how to build e-com stores and everything.
Makes total sense.
But bro, their avatar was so niche. It was Black, Christian, aspiring brand owners.
Whoa.
And they were like crushing it. I'm talking multiple six-figure months all the time. And the overhead was, you know, it's a sales
Coaching,
guy, it's a couple people, but like they were making some money. And I'm like, bro, if like they're awesome and I love them, but I'm like, that's such a small avatar. Like that's a small niche, but they're like every month people are crushing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, okay, what's a bigger problem that I could solve? Because I felt like my skill set was better than what I was getting compensated for.
For sure.
And so I was like, dude, well, I struggled with porn like for a long time. And I know almost everybody does. Like, surely I could do this, right?
It's interesting because it's like a unspoken thing. Up until, because I started seeing those type of coaching companies come out. One of my guy in Vegas I met was the first guy who did it. He was an old pastor.
Yeah.
Who started that part of his business, and he was doing really, really well. I think he was really well in the coaching space, like especially for where he was at. I think he was just around 30K, which was like not bad at all, especially in coaching. Like you're probably making 20-ish on that 30, depending on your systems. But that problem is becoming so much more relevant now than it's ever been. When you're talking to these guys that are struggling with it, like what triggers that problem? Is it just boredom for them?
Well, there's two reasons why I believe men watch porn. They're either bored or they're stressed, right? So like they're anxious. That's what they would say is like, I'm anxious when I'm really stressed out or when I'm bored. And to me, they're kind of the same. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to like, they've just got terrible self-talk, terrible mental health, and a lot of shame. And bro, this is amazing. So yes, they all struggled with that. And we've all watched porn. Like literally there's a stat, I think it's 94% of all men have watched porn. Like, I think it's accurate. Like we've all watched it at least once, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
But the amount of men that I talked to that struggled with gay thoughts, like gay tendencies, and would watch gay porn, and the amount of men that were like came from sexually abused backgrounds, and they all struggled with porn. So like I'm talking like married dudes watching gay porn.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That it has to be bored. Okay, so
and I get it, right? Because like porn is a drug. We don't ever talk about it like this, but porn is a drug. And so like what they would do is like you start watching whatever type of porn you like, right? And then it like kind of escalates and you're looking for that next, like it just doesn't get it anymore, right? Like that's why you'll have like 20 tabs open looking for the best one to finish, and then like it just all kind of stuff. Then you're down
the rabbit hole. Yeah.
And then like what happens is you start watching porn and next thing you know, you're watching two dudes go at it. And it like that's what like kind of gets it like going. Like that's the next high.
So like is it like did you have like a course, or is it like were you on like Zoom calls?
Yeah, it was like it was you know, kind of straight up coaching model. It was group coaching, and it was also I created a tool to help them kind of process their thoughts, and it was a course essentially. So I had all these other things. I was doing one-on-ones, but I was like,
That's heavy, dude.
That's heavy.
Yeah, I'm like, and people would want to talk, and it was just like, dude, like, throw you in the group. I know you're afraid to talk about this in front of anybody else, but that's probably the reason why you watch porn is just like, we need to get you right mentally.
Anytime I could think of where that would get, like, I feel like college, that was probably a bigger problem. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to loneliness. Like, people are genuinely lonely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, big part.
And then the boredom, 100%. Like, you're just bored. Like, what else are you going to, you want something that feels good. You want something that's like, you know, it's either drugs, alcohol, porn, nicotine. There's all types of like vices. But I didn't ever think, this is just ignorant in my view of it. I never thought that somebody would go from like, oh, I'm bored of this type of porn, I'm just going to escalate all the way up to now all of a sudden I'm watching two guys go after each other. That's insane.
I know. And like, I would also, one thing that I always say is like, you don't have a porn problem, you have a purpose problem. So like, you should never be bored, like ever, right? Ever like, I don't care. You 99% of the time, you should never be bored. And so my thing was like, dude, why are you bored? Like, why are you bored? Think about, like, yeah, if you're a college or a kid, I get it, you'd be bored. But like, if you're over the age of 18, let's say, dude, you should be focused on your purpose. You should spend all your time working or around other people. And it's like, okay, the times I'm not working, I'm actively resting. Like, I'm purposefully not trying to work and actually like do things I enjoy that refuels me, like hang out with my family, go to the beach, like go to the gym, read, whatever, right? And so that was my thing, is like, we need to go back to who you believe God created you to be. What like can you focus and give your energy to? And then like all your decisions become easy and you can sift out, instead of watching porn, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that.
I feel like all vices are born in with, what is it? Idle hands creates an evil mind or something like that. Or it's like this idea of when you have idle time.
Yes.
It's idle time and idle hands is devil's playground. It's
yes.
Like that's like, I feel like in our life too, it's like most of the things we're working, I don't know, 6.5 days a week, pretty much. Like we are pretty much working nonstop. And what most people have is the opposite. Most people have, everybody's trying to focus on this work-life balance because the work doesn't align with their purpose. Yeah. So that they're always fighting for balance. And then you have balance, but then you're sitting there on like a Tuesday afternoon and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Especially if you don't have, you know, like more than ever, we have people that don't have good social lives. They don't have good relationships. They don't have physical activities that they can pursue outside of their like time working. It's like most people just work, consume, work, food, porn, TV.
Oh yeah.
You know, drugs, alcohol. It's everybody's in this like consumption crisis in a real way.
Big time.
So then when you're doing this coaching offer, when do you kind of phase out of it? Or was there a moment where you're like, all right, I think I gotta change directions.
Yeah, and so that was, I don't know, early summer for me, just a couple of months ago. Let's say like 3 or 4 months ago. It was just because like I was spending a lot of resources on it, and I believe in the problem, and I'm gonna bring it back really soon. So what I did in the meantime was like I just took all the content, all the curriculum, like, and I wrote a book, and so. I'm probably I think I'm on my 3rd draft now. So I'd love to just get the book out there and then also like kind of bring some of this stuff back. But my business was really growing. So I was like, I believe that this would be a great opportunity for like a nonprofit, or, you know, there are some people that are really like crushing it with the coaching. I just had too much things going on at the time. I'm like, let me sideline this. And then when I've got things more organized, like bring it back in a sustainable way. Cause it's a big issue, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, and I just wanted to be able to provide more value, and I'll definitely bring it back, maybe early next year, but in a way where it's just like, hey, this is kind of a part of my ecosystem. If you want to join it, let's go.
Writing a book, like what does that look like? And like, how do you have like an editor? Do you have like a publisher? Like, how are you going about like putting a book out?
So I was originally just going to do like the coaching model of like self-publish, lead magnet, run ads, then get them on the phone and upsell them and everything. But I was like, dude, I just got connected with a couple people, like young people, that worked with the publisher and like New York Times bestseller, like crushed it. And I'm like, okay, I don't expect those results, but I mean, you guys understand like branding and perceived value. And so it's like, if I could just maybe work with someone, and there's like publishers out there where it's like a 2-year contract and then it kind of folds back to you. So I'm like, okay, if I could just like, I don't care if I make money off of it. So I've been talking to some publishers and just like, yeah, let's say I pay them, 15, 20 grand, whatever, get on their TV commercials and stuff. And then boom, like everything else comes into play.
But the shift that you're making now is you're going way more into like content in and of itself. You're working on the podcast.
Yeah.
Why was that the logical next step for you?
For me, it was just like, it all comes down to brand. Perceived value and brand. And part of the reason why they didn't know me, part of the reason why they weren't buying is because they didn't know me. They liked me and they kind of trusted me. But like you get somebody, and this was the worst. Like you're running ads and then like I would call them the second they put their info. It's like, hey, this is Jake. I heard you're struggling with porn, No, I didn't put my info in, So it was like, I knew I needed to build a long-term reputation, and like brand is the new currency, right? So like, if you don't have a personal brand, to me, it was like, dude, this is crazy. Like you see people that have somewhat of a brand and you can instantly monetize, or you can instantly get stages or credibility or access. And I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm a gold mine, but no one knows about it. No one cares about it. And I'm like, I need to establish a brand. So that's why I was like, you just need to create a ton of content, get out there and like have that. So that's why I was like, we need to kind of revisit things and like get that out there. That's why I did it. And everything.
Yeah, it's like front load the brand building, and then once you have the brand actually established, there's 100,000 ways to monetize it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And in the meantime, why not get like, I was talking to a friend of mine. She's a super successful coach, and she was like, Jake, let's just get your school community going. Let's get this going. Like establish at least the community, and then we'll do all this stuff. I was like, yeah, I should probably do that.
So how many e-com products have you like worked with over the 5 years that you've been doing it? Like when do we have the product?
So I started this in 2019, so about 5 years ago. And I've pretty much only been selling this type of product. So you'll find this interesting. How I got involved with this was at the time I was living in Estero, and I was working for a rental car company up there. And so I was at their headquarters. And so as a project manager, I got my degree in physics. I got a master's degree in engineering.
Damn.
And so I was working as an engineer for a private jet company. Then I was working at, Hertz right down the road. And so I was at church, and this woman called me over. She was like crying in tears. And we had prayed for this girl before, and she got healed of like this uncurable blood disease. And she thinks we're like it, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, cool. And so I walk over to her car, and her best friend is in the front car seat, and she's talking to somebody on the car through Bluetooth. And I was like, I looked at Karen, and it sounded like people were wailing and crying. I was like, Karen, what is going on? Is somebody like dying? Like, what's the problem here? Like, what's going on? And her friend's like, oh, it's my fiance. She's demon possessed. My sister and her fiance is on the line. She's demon possessed. We didn't know what to do, so we called you.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, not a problem. This is what we're going to do. So I was like trying to cast out the demon in this girl. And like, you could hear like she's coming in and out of it. Like her personality's changing. Like the other guy's like going nuts. Like he's losing it, crying, doesn't know what to do, and you could hear it. Right. And I was like, dude, this demon was speaking back to me. I tried to like cast this demon out. And this is all over the phone.
That's crazy.
I know. So anyway, long story short, I wasn't able to cast this demon out of this chick. And I was like, bro, if the name that you just ain't working, I got nothing. I didn't know what to do. So I ended up leaving. I guess she calmed down. And I come to find out that this happened to her multiple times. Like she would lock herself in some closet, speak some other language. Like she was really into crystals. And I was like, dog, what's up with people in crystals?
Crystals.
Like that's sketchy. Like this was 5 years ago, so I knew people were into crystals. Like,
Yeah, but back then it was like if you were into crystals, there was like a weird stigma around you a little bit. Like
Yeah.
Now I feel like it's way more socially acceptable, but like
It's still, I feel like if you have crystals, it's like if somebody told me like they, you know, you go to somebody's house, they have all those crystals like on their windowsill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's like, I'm like, all right, a little weird. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like, I was like, what's up with people in crystals? So I started doing research, and I remembered, like, in school, when I studied, like, there was mathematical equations. Like, it's called the piezoelectric effect, where if you compress crystals, like, energy emits because the way the molecules are separated. Like, if you take 2 quartz crystals and smash them in the dark, like, light will emit. Like, this isn't weirdo stuff. Like, this is math.
yeah.
whoa.
So, like, crystals hold energy and information. Like, this is not weird.
For sure. No.
And I was like, dude, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And so I started studying them and went down the rabbit hole, found out that there's this crystal called shungite that protects you from wireless radiation. Like, there's scientific studies, and, you know, it protects you from your cell phone's radiation. And cell phone radiation is harmful. So I took the crystal, broke it down into powdered form. I put it inside the phone case. And so shungite's the only material on Earth, which is only found in one mine in the world, contains this molecule that is the only molecule. It's the only material that contains this molecule. And this molecule is like, it's called a fullerene. They didn't think it was on Earth. In 96, the guys who discovered it won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. So I put it inside of his phone case, and now, you know, people are buying them, and it's helping people.
How did you go about like setting this whole thing up? Like, where are you getting shungite from?
Yeah, so it's only found in Russia. And so, like, that was another problem. Like, when the war broke out, I'm like, shoot, how am I going to get all this stuff? Like,
That's it.
and now I've got, that was a good toss.
What was a good toss?
Yeah, so now I've got like third-party lab data that shows it protects you. Like, I got hats that have like silver fiber that blocks the radiation as well.
Whoa.
So my whole brand is about like protecting people from like this negative energy, right? So yeah, I contacted suppliers. I'm like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Start putting it together. Started selling it. And
how do you get that start? Like, is it really just as simple as you? Obviously, this took a lot of R&D, like a lot of R&D to get up and running. But what is the business model like once you launch something like this?
I mean, just really to sell it in as many places as you can. So like a lot of people, when you say e-com, they're like, they immediately think of drop shipping or like running an Amazon business. So I started like, I had a Shopify store. People would, you know, order them and I would ship it out myself.
Okay.
And actually the first sales I started to make was really on Etsy. So Etsy, then I created my own Shopify. Then I started selling on Amazon, but it's like a paid, like the way you really scale is pay to play. So like paid ads. And then also work, you know, having really high quality creative. So, you know, images, working with influencers and stuff like that.
And are you like, at least in the, are you making these like yourself? Are you paying somebody to make these?
No, I paid someone to make them. So like I didn't have the equipment. Now I'm looking at bringing, that's what I'm on now, is I'm looking at manufacturing equipment and bringing it all back home and like hiring a team and having a facility and like doing our own manufacturing.
So where are these coming out of now? Like
right now it's made in China.
China.
Yeah.
China.
I mean, are we worried about the potential tariffs that we're talking? Like, is that the idea of like securing the business model long term?
So I'm not too worried about that. I mean, we'll see. I think like what Trump's doing and everything, and I love President Trump, but like, I don't know how all that's going to work. If it affects me, whatever, like we'll see. But to me, it's like, I want to be able to create way more products. I eventually am going to sell the business. So I want to have a better evaluation, and a better evaluation is if I'm in home. And so like part of it is like whenever you have something like this, the way that they do it is like based off molds. So like they created these molds because they already sell them, right? But then I'm like, hey, I want to have like the Pixel, the Huawei, the, you know, Samsung. And like one of the pros to this is everybody has a phone. One of the cons to this is there's a zillion SKUs, right? So we have like 100 SKUs for like 4 different colors. And that's like only iPhone. So, you know, I'm like, okay. And each mold they have to create is like thousands of dollars. So I'm like, dude, for just to create different molds, I could buy the equipment and do it myself.
True.
So that's why I'm like, granted, my price per unit's going to increase because American labor is high, but I mean, like the whole system is set up for you to do like the government. What I would love to see Trump do and everything is like, if you could, yes, play the tariff game, but like get rid of the payroll tax, like you could help with minimum wage stuff here. Cause it's like, dude, I pay a quarter of the price for offshore resources. I don't pay any payroll tax. But here it's like, oh my God, I have to pay payroll tax. I have to do way more. I'm like, it literally is like, when you get down to it, an eighth of the price to work with people offshore.
That's very true. That's the problem we're in right now. It's just like we half of our business is run overseas too.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just because right now we're in a predicament, especially in creative and like in our world, content creation.
Yeah.
Everybody is overpriced. Everybody stateside is overpriced. Everybody stateside has iffy work ethic, honestly. And I'm not even saying that to just like hate. Like I legitimately have seen the difference of, $30 an hour for, our guys over in Serbia versus $30 an hour over here. Like people like scoff at you for that type of stuff. And I'm just like, when did we get to the point? I really do think that the mass production of this stuff in China and stuff like that it's forcing business owners' hands. It's like we can't, if we want to do it stateside, our prices have to be the absolute highest. And then when you're talking about increasing pricing, you better have the quality right up there with it.
Exactly.
Because if not, like, what are you doing? And in that instance, like, we can get better quality overseas, and we can get better work ethic, and we can get better pricing. It's like, that's a hard problem to solve. I mean, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like obviously, like I would rather have people here that like, you can like talk to in the office, but those guys are killers. Like I wouldn't change them out for anyone.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys in offshore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like why pay more to pay somebody to do it here when we're getting better editors with what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. It's just like now I've got some relationships where I've, somebody's been working with me for years and I love her and I'm like literally offered to pay her to move here and everything, right? Like I would love to, like that in-person culture, like
special.
Imagine we brought the boys here.
It'd be awesome. Right?
Like,
So, but it's like, it's kind of hard to afford them here though. That's
exactly what we were thinking of the exact same thing. It's like you bring them in here. Probably back in April, we had a team member and we literally relocated them here.
Yeah.
And it threw off the entire dynamic of it because, again, cost of like living in Naples ain't cheap. Living in Florida ain't cheap. You know what I mean? Like then all of a sudden you're working with people in a different dynamic. Like some people are way more comfortable working from home, having their own schedule. And then all of a sudden you're kind of like ramping that up. And we kind of found where we have two sides of the business. We have like me, Mike, Ryan, like we have our in-person team.
Yeah.
That like works directly one-on-one with our clients, but all the editing and all that stuff, we're better off in a virtual environment. Let them wake up when they want, let them get the work done when they want. Like that's the balance between, virtual work versus like in-person work. And I feel like we're trying to find the balance between it, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You have the econ business. When did the real estate investing kick up too? Like, I feel like we got how much, just so far in 20 minutes, we got 3 different businesses that we're talking about. Plus media.
And you know what too is so funny is like, we bring people in and like the whole point of the podcast is bringing in like high performing, successful people in entrepreneurship, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And everybody has the same, it's like, you've been everything. Yeah. Like nobody's like, it's not just like I picked one thing, I stuck to one thing. Like this is how I made my business. Yeah. Everybody has a story of like, I did this and then I did this. You have 7 jobs before you figure out which one clicked for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll say even Rad Energy itself has changed over time.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
I mean, I had to change suppliers and I had to change how I was marketing it. I changed the name, like I changed so much. But yeah, so the reason why I started that is because how I got into real estate was when I went to go sell the brand, I realized, last year I was really starting to scale and I was like, oh wow, like dude, I'm a millionaire on paper. Like, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm still kind of broke, but like the business is worth a lot. And then it started going back down again. I'm like, oh man, I'm negative net worth.
So funny.
And so I'm like, how does this whole buying and selling businesses work? Right. And I was renting out my condo. That's how I moved to Texas. And then I was under contract with a triplex out there. And I was like, dude, I just bought like $1 million worth of real estate with like no money down. This is weird. Like, how can I get $100 million worth of real estate? So I started learning about Grant Cardone, went to his stuff, got connected with some people. And so just like skipped single family, went straight to multifamily. So, now I'm in over 200 doors in a couple different properties, and like, submitted an offer on a place in Fort Lauderdale last week, just got rejected. Now Grant Cardone's actually coming to our event in November and speaking. So be sharing the stage with him. Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm super excited.
I'd be interested to get your take, because I've seen you're big into like the different masterminds and things like that. How do you, when you look at it, because I've spent real money, like our business partner, Jason and I, when we first started the company, we spent like a lot of money on an agency accelerator type of company. And, it was good. There's definitely some value there. How much did I pay versus the value I got wasn't necessarily close. So I'd be interested, like, how do you navigate that? How do you not get sold up a river with like BS?
With agencies or masterminds?
Like masterminds and stuff like that. Because I feel like it's a slippery slope in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely spent a lot too. Yeah, I mean, so to me, like, there's nothing worth more than relationships.
Facts.
So, when you start going into masterminds, part of the reason why I wanted to build a brand was like, dude, I was paying, and I still am paying thousands to go to events. And like, I would see friends of mine who were the speakers who would get paid to go to the event where I'm paying. And then they had a 10x experience than me, because now they're backstage with all the other speakers, and then everybody's perceiving them as high value. And I'm like, dude, we're equal.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay, how can I get on the stage? Like, how can I, get up there and do those things? Because it's like, it's all this weird branding, perceived value thing, right? So for me, learning like what's really the offer and what are my goals. Because it's like, man, there's like such good salespeople that it's like they just get hooked in me and I pay for it,
Facts.
So I'm like, oh man, like I got to be careful and steward what my goals are, lest I get hooked in. And if it's something good, whatever, I'll do it. But like, to me, like, I've paid $25,000, $30,000 for masterminds.
Whoa.
I've paid $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $7,000 for masterminds, right? Like a couple grand for an event, and I'll do it. I'll pay it. I got no problem with it, right? But to me, it's like, you got to know what you want and where you're going.
Yeah, it's interesting because we work with one of our big clients is Derek Fay, and that before, I would get super discouraged because I would see these events, I'd see these speakers, and I'd see like at the time, like we didn't have the money to even spend like I'd get on the phone with the guys that are selling the masterminds.
Yeah.
Their sales pitch would be fucking money, but I just didn't have the money to cough it up. So it was like, listen, this is all great and all, but I literally can't afford what you're trying to sell me. And then once I started going with Derek to these events, on the other side of it, like he was the speaker. We were in the VIP section. I got this very skewed perspective on it, because what I saw these guys, specifically one event, I won't call them out on it, but I saw these guys proud of the fact that they would go on stage for 90 minutes and they'd close like 2 million off the stage, which is awesome. Really, really dope that they were able to do that. But then when I started to dig in on like, what exactly are these people getting for $20,000, $30,000? And they'd be like, oh, well, they're going to get a half a day in my office learning from me, this, that, and the third. And I was like, all right, like
that's it.
Yep, that's kind of.
Is it really worth that?
That's the question. It's all a matter of what people will actually pay for. But it's interesting because we don't compete against masterminds in any sense,
Yeah.
but we're similar in pricing.
Sure.
Like anybody that comes to us is going to spend. I mean, some people will do both. They'll do the mastermind and they'll do us. But exactly what you're saying, like people pay money with us to then circumvent the entire system.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it gets to the point where you can pay to get in the room, or you can pay for the brand to then get you into every room.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm talking
Yeah. That's funny. So when you look at how things are currently structured, you have multiple things that you want to launch. What would you put at like the front of like where you feel most of your time is going?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, it's like my Rad Energy is number one, right? My product brand is number one because that's what's paying for everything. I believe in it. What's up?
It's keeping the lights on.
Yeah, it's keeping the lights on, and it's really got the biggest trajectory in a way. Like business is great for cash flow. Like, you know, it's really great, right? And then your net worth and like generational wealth and everything comes down to what you own, right? So it's like taking that money from Rad Energy, that's funding real estate, that's funding everything, right? So it's really, to me, I would say like in priority, it's like Rad Energy, personal brand, and real estate, kind of one or two or three, right? Because they're kind of together. I'm gonna have a hard time figuring out which ones, but I spend a lot of time on real estate right now.
Yeah.
Like I would say 50% of the time is Rad Energy, 50% is real estate, and then everything else gets the rest.
Yeah.
And I know that's 50-50. But that's where I'm at, right? It's like, where else can we, like, there's only so much more time. So for me right now, as we go into Q4, my focus is like really building out in really helping out my team and building out my team even more. Because it's like team is everything.
That's facts.
You said you're in over 200 doors right now?
Yeah.
So you said before, like, so I did real estate for 2 years. A lot of people like don't believe that you can, like you said, for zero down, like to get started. So like, what did that look like for you? How did you, like, from going from not knowing about anything about real estate to figuring that all out to buying your first property? Like, how long did that take? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, and it wasn't a true zero down, but it was like, wow, nearly $1 million, and I think total out would have been like 30,000.
30,000.
So I was like, that's insane, right? Like, if you think about it.
Yeah, that is insane.
And so for me, it was just like, yeah, like, okay, with masterminds and stuff, like sometimes I'm like, bro, this is like, yes, it's gonna save time, but like I learn by doing. So I can some things you have to be in the right room or it's gonna take you forever. Like multifamily, like what I do, like, bro, it's impossible to do it alone. And I don't care how much money you're worth, it's actually almost impossible to do alone.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, you actually need to be with somebody of higher value than you, that people in the space respect, for you to even close a deal. Unless you're just like all cash, boom, whatever. And then it's probably a terrible deal anyway. Yeah. So like, you know, for me, I set this goal of, 2 goals at the beginning of the year. I wanted to work with the world's best in whatever I do. And I also wanted to treat everybody as a friend. And those were like the best goals ever, by the way.
That's a good goal.
That was a good goal.
Like, I always go back, like even the financial goals, like I'm like, whatever, but like those were really cool for me. So like for people getting into real estate, it depends what you're doing, how you want to do it. I know people that are making a ton of money, like, and I mean a ton of money, wholesaling, buying stuff, no money down. Like, it's crazy. Like, you can do, and that's what's cool about real estate, is like everything's possible. Like everything. Like, you can acquire, I don't know, man. There's just like, if I was broke and had nothing, that's probably what I would do, is figure out how to wholesale and just like do that stuff. Because you don't need anything and you can just be the connection.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like when people are most of the people listening to the podcast, they're in that, either I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, or they're in that first like zero, like they're just like, you know, they're just trying to hustle for those first couple of dollars. And I think it can be kind of discouraging when you see, oh, this person's making how much doing what, or this person's doing this and that. Like, how do you, from a comparison side, not let that overrun you, especially when you're in these masterminds where you're like, dude, who are you and how much are you making? How much are you doing? Like, it was like, it's just an interesting dynamic. How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like you mentioned the backstage thing. Like I remember, so when I was in Cabo, I went backstage and I knew the speakers, but then like there was all these people I didn't know, and like, dude, I like they were so disrespected. I was like, hey, my name's Jake. Like who? And I asked like, what's your name? Because I clearly didn't know who they were. But then he was like, oh, my name's so and so, and like I could tell immediately put off, and like. Yeah, I had no idea who it was. Both of them had like, one had over 20 million followers and is like crushing it. And then the other one, I actually didn't look him up, but found out how much money he was making, and he moved out of the country for all these reasons and stuff. And then I found like some no-name people that are literally making millions.
Yeah.
Like literally no name, has like less than 500 followers, is crushing it. Coolest dude ever.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, who do I... You know, and we talk about like when you said going to these events, dude, I used to be so nervous talking to people and doing stuff. I'm like, oh, wow, like all these guys are just normal like me. Like, yeah, they got a brand and they're making a little more money, but like they got issues. They got big time issues like me. Like all it is a number. And so to me, like helping guys back with porn and everything, I'm like, okay, what's my purpose? Like the only competition really is me. Like my destiny is just between me and God. And like having that peace is what gives me, if I can receive the love of God and I can be that, then I can help others. And that's really what I'm here for anyway. So it really liberates me to treat everyone as a friend. And everybody's really just too preoccupied, focused on themselves anyway.
Yeah.
Like all those like cool guys and like even people I've been cool with, like, I mean, we care about each other, but they're just focused on their thing. Everybody's focused on themselves.
It's interesting too, because like one of the things in the agency space, there's a ton of comparison because you're always.
What's your numbers? How much you doing a month? Who are you working with?
And what's your lead funnel? What's this?
How you
What's
doing
that?
this? Ours is better.
What's your system?
Pay me to do it.
Exactly. What's that? What's this? And I don't know. Like I remember when we were doing it, and it wasn't until we really took off as an agency when we stopped listening to those people.
Yes.
And like we stopped participating in those groups. We stopped doing the weekly calls. We were like, a lot of it was like they've pre-framed you on what's possible and what's not. And there's part of it where I respect, because there's a lot of people that have done things and they've done it the hard way, and they're like, I don't want you to have to go through these same steps. But like one thing in particular that Jason and I talked about literally the other day is we used to be in this mastermind, and like everybody was either targeting like doctors or ceramic coating or like all these hyper niches. And we were like, nah, we're just focused on like high net worth, high impact, want to build their brand, want to do something really cool in the world, want to make a positive impact on other people. And we would get the fucking wackiest looks in there. They'd just be like, what do you mean? Like, how do you expect to go from 0 to 30K in less than 2 months if that's what you're doing? Or like, there was a lot of these questions, and we sat with the guy who owned the mastermind. He's like, I'm going to be honest. Like, it was a one-on-one. He's like, I'm going to be honest with you. Look, what you're doing now is the slow way. It's going to take time, but give it 5 years and you are going to blow every single person in this mastermind out of the water. And you're going to be grateful that you just kind of were the black sheep at the time to then become like what you guys are. And we're 3 years into that plan. And every day, me and Jace, me and Mike, we talk about it. We're like, God damn, we're so happy. Because there's so many different points where we're talking and we're like, it would be so easy if we just did it the way that everybody else is doing it. Or if we just simplified and we just did this, or like there's all these moments. And part of what frustrated me was if I didn't have that comparison, there might've been some challenges along the way. And like, there's definitely some lack of context that allows you to open up to what's potentially possible. But I was thinking about all the nights that I would go home and I'd be like, I feel less than, I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like, why are they crushing it and I'm not? And it was like, a lot of that was just avoided if you just tunnel vision. I'm going to build this. I believe I'm going to build this, and I'll fail my way to the top in a sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting though.
Dude, I love that. Like so much. Cause that was for me too, is just like, you got to just figure out, like when my mentors told me like not to do things a certain way and I did it and it worked out 10 times better. I'm like, dude, okay. Like I believe like God gave you this intelligence to just do it.
And I think we have all the answers, right? And like that sounds actually super snobby to say that we have all the answers, because I think there's a part of getting the answers by doing is better teacher than having somebody be like, well, I did X, Y, and Z, and here's my situation, because you don't know where they started, you don't know what kind of resource they had. So the understanding, and going back to the whole premise of like the idea of a mastermind, I love it. I love it for the camaraderie. I love it for the community. I love it for the friendships, because you're going to find like-minded people. I don't like it for the tactical advice, because I think it creates a bunch of copycats. I think it creates a bunch of copycats. And then when you're actually like, you look at this product, this is hard to build.
Yeah.
You're not going around like trying to be like, okay, in your e-com, like in your product, how can I rip your product off and like tweak it in this? Like, this is a completely unique and hard thing to build, and that's what makes it worth building. That's what gives it the legs to stick around longer than, you know, a blip. A lot of the guys in the agency course that we were in would get to 100K in less than 3-4 months. Like, and it was so maddening. But then now here we are 3 years later, and most of those people are out of business.
Oh, dude, it's insane.
It's because all of those courses are also, it's not just how to build a business, it's how to scale business in X amount of months. It's like, this is your time frame. Like, you can build an entire business in 6 months, say they're selling. It's like, you got to be okay with doing it the right way, not the fast way. And just like we're working 12 hours a day. They've been doing this for 3 years with little return. It's just like, you have to trust the fact that if you keep going, eventually it's going to work. Like, you fail your way to the top. And now all of a sudden we're in year 3, and we're hockey sticking now. Like, all that work with no return for them longer than me. Like, they've been doing this for 3 years, and it's like all of a sudden now it feels like everything's clicking.
Yeah,
like we're just winning everywhere. Like, that's
awesome to hear. By the way,
yeah,
popcorn's
awesome.
It's the idea of like the popcorn is finally starting to pop.
Yeah.
Dude,
when you throw it in the microwave and then you get like a little pop here, and that's like, oh, sick. Like, that felt good. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's like everything is popping around you. And it was literally just because of a long stretch of intense pressure, intense heat that you just kept going through. Like, you just kept driving yourself through no matter what the situation was. Because most people, and I bet you see this all the time in masterminds, where people will business hop like 17 times. Like, it's just nonstop. Okay, this is too hard, so I'm going to do this because I'm it's perceived that this is going to be easier. Yeah. But that's just delusion in a sense.
Yes.
It's funny too, because like me and Jace were looking through a spreadsheet the other day of like our first clients, like all the way back, because this goes right back to like one of the first clients we were working with was a porn company.
Legit.
What?
Like legit.
like at that point in time, they're taking literally anybody that would give us any amount of money to do anything. So it's like, real estate agents paying us $200 to go take a picture of a house, whatever. Like, whatever we can do to make money at that time, it's like, fuck it. So it's like they're working with a porn company for a while. And it's like, to look at like the roster of people they were working with 3 years ago to like what we're doing now, is like, it's crazy to see.
If you would have told, like, I'll give you the backstory, because I'd imagine you're probably wondering why that happened. So we were building this agency, or we had the idea of the agency for a while. And I was running like this mini personal brand that I'd started myself, that was around healthy habits and all the things that I still to this day like have in my life. But I was in college, and a lot of my buddies would be like, yo, why did you start journaling? Or why did you start what's your workout routine? How are you doing all these big races and stuff like that? So I started creating content around it. And then somebody came up to me and was like, hey, how you run your brand. Actually, at the time, Mike was working with the guy that reached out to me for the first time, Big Dallas.
Yes. So back then, at that time, like when they were starting this 3 years ago, I was at Coldwell Banker. Another one of our friends, we had like a team. It was me and him. We worked. Are you still in real estate, like in Naples, or is it all?
It's all over the place.
All over the place. Okay. Yeah. So it was Naples Central. We worked under a guy, Steve Bacardi. It was me and Dallas. And then I remember that meeting we had. That's funny that I completely forgot about that. It was me and Dallas and you and Jace, and you were trying to pitch us to build our stuff out.
Yes. Literally the same stuff we offer now. So like we had this, so he comes to me and he's like, look, I need somebody to run my Instagram. I'll give you like $600. Like, here's what I need you to do. And I went to Jace that night, my business partner, and I was like, hey, look, this is crazy. Look what they're offering, like $600. Like, at the time, man, I am in college and I'm fucking broke. $600 is like, that's like, that is a month's worth of expenses for me. And I'm like, dude, alrighty. Like, now we're doing business. And Jace was like, look, man, like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but like, I think we got to offer more. Like, I think we're selling ourselves short with this current offer. Cause it's like, oh, you're going to social media management. It was like, okay, I kind of understand what that is. And so we put together this, I'll never forget it. It was a $2,000 package. And when I built this $2,000 package, I was like, holy shit, I'm rich. Like, I think this is going to be crazy. Pitched it. And I mean, immediately they just closed it. They were like, no, we're not giving you $2,000 to do whatever this social media stuff is. And I was like pretty discouraged at that moment, but there was like this feeling of like, okay, got punched in the face here, lost the $600 that would have actually changed my life, like in that moment.
Yeah.
But what can I take from this? Long story short, I started how I started the agency. I hit up Upwork every day for 3 hours every single morning. And I, like, if you're familiar with Upwork, it's like it's a job platform. So like, I sat there for 3 hours every single morning and sent out over 200 offers to jobs.
Really?
Like just spamming them because like that was the only, we didn't have any word of mouth. We had no testimonials. We had nothing. We got our first deal, which was $275 for anything but what we actually did. So Jace had to teach himself like G Suite stuff that like basically something that a CTO would do for a business.
Sure.
We had to teach ourselves. Long story short, we finally got our biggest paycheck and it was from a literal I'm trying to think when crypto was really booming, what Web3. They were branding themselves as a Web3 Pornhub. And I grew up in the church. Jace has very strong connection with his religion, and we were sitting there and we were like, it was $1,900 a month that we're gonna get paid. And we're sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to. But I guess I'm gonna have to. And I think that we had the account for like 4 months and it just sucked. But
it sucked. Like you guys, it didn't perform well. You working on it?
It didn't perform well. The team, you want to imagine what that marketing team looked like? Just a bunch of weirdos that you're sitting in the chat with every single day. Like even the business builders are weird. It was just like
grimy. You know? Like it's just like you don't get a good feeling.
No.
like it's like you're not doing something good here. But it's like
and you know the parent company that owns all these porn businesses, like the name of their business is like Ethical Business Partners or something like that. Like the complete opposite, but that's what they brand it. But yeah, so keep going. So you did it for about 4 months and it just sucked.
I mean, it was just totally not aligned with who we were. And we were just like, we weren't putting our best foot forward. You think we're like, I really do believe in a lot of things that we do. It's like, if you have the desire in your heart that you believe that this thing can be big, like that's where we get all of our energy from. It's like we put time into projects that were like, you could be big because. And it's like, in no way was I like, I don't even want you guys to be big because you guys are like literally working against.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
your core values.
It's just working against what I actually genuinely again, my personal brand platform was all about personal development. Like, but when I first started this entire thing, so I'm just like, this is just going against everything that I know to be true. Granted, I'm grateful for it. I'm glad we did it because now we never have to work with a company like that again.
Yeah.
But
it's so nice to finally be at a point where like we're big on like culture. So it's either whether it be hires or clients too, like who we're working with. Like I would rather work with a less amount of people, like quality over quantity. Because like when we take these projects on, it's like this takes up all of our time. So it's like I want to be like at least we're interested in it too. And it's like, but back then you don't have that luxury. So
Yeah.
it's, you take what you can.
That's pretty wild though. Like what an origin story of how you guys have done that. And it like develops your purpose even more.
And it's like, but even by having that company, it's not like you can go to someone else and be like, hey, like we work with these guys.
Yeah.
Like, let us do it for you too. Like that's something like you're under wraps about.
Oh,
you
my
know?
mom didn't find out about it until like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't even know I was doing it until like 3 months ago.
Wow.
Nobody in my like I didn't want anybody to know. I was just like, you know, they were just like, "How are you doing it?" I'm like, "I don't know." I guess we're just gonna make it work. But
And at that time, like if someone comes to him and is like, you know, what do you do for work? Like the real answer is like, I'm the marketing guy for a porn company.
Well, you know, it's crazy. Like, dude, dude, like, okay, so a couple weeks ago, I was in Mexico and it was this girl. She's smoking hot. She's 40 and she is an OnlyFans model.
yeah,
And like, she got up into the panelist was like, I forgot she was an OnlyFans model because she never talks about it. But she's got like, I don't know, 600, 700,000 followers and all this stuff. And like, I mean, she's making money. But then like I think it was Bradley or somebody was like, so what do you do for work again? Because she was like talking around it and she's like, oh, I tell stories online. I'm a digital storyteller or something. And he was like, so you tell these stories, like, what are you trying to do here? Like, because he didn't know. And he was like trying to like get it out of her and stuff.
Brad's that type of guy.
Yeah. She never got around to saying it. And then like a buddy told me later, I was like, dude, that makes total sense. Like even her, she wasn't honest about it either. It's like, you got to be proud about who you are and what you're doing.
We were cracking up yesterday. We were like, you know, with the, you know, OnlyFans is since 2020 has become like a legit model for girls to make money. Like, and it's crazy. But imagine all those girls that started one and it just didn't work.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that.
So it's like, so now not only are your nudes all over the internet, but like you didn't even make money. Like nobody wanted to buy it. So it's like, like that's got to be like the worst of the worst. Like a failed OnlyFans model.
Put that in your Instagram bio.
So true.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're like a woman's life coach or something like that. Like from
How I transformed my life.
yeah, exactly. Hey, it's all part of the story.
So funny.
It's all part of the story. But
Dude, I mean, if I was a girl though, I would do it 100%. You never work like who's the girl that made like $1 million in like an hour?
Corinna Kopp.
Like just post it and it's like not even
$3.2
new pictures.
in the
They're like
first
these
24 hours.
Some of them like famous, like semi like pseudo famous people that are like on the cusp. You don't even need to post naked pictures anymore. Like you just post any pictures.
Yeah.
Like pictures that you would post on Instagram.
Yeah.
They're making $1 million in an hour.
Oh yeah.
Sign me up. You know? Like
Yeah, I mean, this guy who used to work out at my gym, he was a dude and he was an OnlyFans model and he was making money, you know? But it's literally prostituting yourself.
it is. And we've just found a way to glorify it and also just monetize it. It's a new monetization model that didn't exist before. It used to be like, you know, I think there was we're going deep into this rabbit hole, but like there's, you know, back in the day when you had like, you still have Pornhub and these different things, but you'd have to get hired for those shoots.
Yeah.
And now it's like you are your own creator in a sense. And it's just like, it's a wild, wild, wild world we're living in. It's hard too, because most people, when they feel, I guess when you feel like you're out of hope, it's like, what's the easiest thing to do? I'm good looking. I'll just sell my body.
Dude, yeah. And that's honestly, a lot of coaches are prostitutes. If you think about it, you prostituting yourself and just selling your time and doing stuff.
yeah.
I got no problem with it if you're helping people. So like when I was helping guys quit porn, I'm like, dude, I felt so alive. Like I was helping them. I was in the moment. I was present and I loved like 100%. I had 100% success rate. If you just did what I said to do, you would be free, right? But guys didn't want to do the work. And I got to this point where I was like, I only wanted to work on the things that I wanted to work on. And purpose is better than money. And like I had friends of mine, like we went Pine Ridge Middle right here together. And he's the same age, went to the same schools, you know, and he's a couple chapters ahead of me in life in the sense of like, He could sell his business to private equity. He's already getting offers. Like, he's married. He's traveling the world. Hasn't been home in like 9 months now, almost a year. Like, because he's just traveling with his family. And like, he said to me, he was like, dude, like, I wish I was more like you in a way. Like, you're doing things that you want to do. I'm over here doing this. Yeah, it's working. And like, I had like a couple other people. I'm like, dude, I'm broke. And I'm like, how? And so to me, it's like, can I just be my authentic self? If you think about it, like, it's all kind of interesting, right? Like, rad energy, crystal phone case, casting out a demon from some chick that didn't work, like real estate, like, all these things are cool because it's unique. Like, this grit media, like, is cool because it's authentic. Like, your story, I'm like, nobody's going to copy that. Like, there's no competition with yourself.
That is the biggest thing that we've focused on. It's doing because every mastermind I went to, I had this call with this lady in the mastermind. Like, luckily I'm a good person, or I would put this entire mastermind on blast right now. But I had a phone call with her, and we were talking about how to scale the agency. And I was like, it's hard because I take so much time with my clients. Like, I love talking with them. I love hearing what's going on with their life. And she was like, listen, if you want to be a therapist, charge $200 an hour. Do you want to run an agency? And I'm like, something tells me that you can do both and still scale. And then that goes back to the founder of Airbnb, where he talks about how they came up and how they started. And it was like, all we did was the unscalable. All we did was focus on how people felt. All we did was do things that were incredibly laborious. And then over time, when you do that long enough and you get the right word of mouth and you get the right momentum for what you're doing, you'll find a way to scale it. It's just a matter of like focusing on doing the unscalable, making people feel something that they wouldn't feel with anybody else, and then just duplicating that model. And I mean, it took us a long time, but I'm glad that we were okay with being the black sheep. I'm glad we were okay with, when we started, it was like, I got a lot of like, you're stupid. What the hell are you doing? Like, there's so many easier ways to make money. And I was like, I don't know that I really care.
Yeah, but give it time. Like, that word that guy gave you, like, in 5 years, dude, that's so true. Because in 2 years, first off, personal branding's already becoming a thing. And then in another 2 years, it's like people are going to realize, oh, snap, this is it. Like, this is it. Like, there's nothing more valuable than a brand.
It's funny, too, because we were talking, one of the biggest problems that we saw was LTV with clients. We used to say at the very beginning, 3 years ago, that whenever was something bad that would happen in the company, within our clients' companies, we were the first line item to go. Like, they wouldn't even second guess it. They were just like, oh, really good example. So after the porn company, we were doing, nothing impressive, probably like $5K a month, but it was enough to pay me enough to where I was like, all right, I'm good. And then I didn't have to like edit all the videos myself. So we got like a little bit of support there, whatever. And then Hurricane Ian came through. And overnight, I got 3 calls the next day of one client just completely dropped off the face of the earth. Didn't talk to me ever again. Didn't send us another invoice. Like, literally just dropped off the face of the earth. I don't know where they are still to this day. Got 2 other calls that same day. Like, hey man, like, I can't pay you anymore. Like, my whole business just went under. And so I woke up one day, we're crushing it. We're the big, like, we're going to the moon even at that phase. But waking up the next day, pretty much you're starting from, not scratch by any means, but you're starting from basically zero. Like, that was the moment for me where I was like, oh, I better really love this. Like, I better really want to do this, because right now is the easiest, like the biggest hurricane in Florida history hit my hometown and I just got this business off the ground. Like, so, like, if there's a sign by God, like, this must be it. Like, it. And I mean, again, the war of attrition, just stuck in it. Was like, all right, I'm not going to I'm not going to give up. Like, worst case scenario is like, I'm just broke. But I mean, those are the types of stories that you need to be able to actually know that you want to do what you want to do.
Oh yeah. 100%.
So where do you see yourself? I know you're focusing on the personal brand now. Like, do you have a 5-year goal? Like, I know that sounds cliche, but like, do you?
That's something I've got, like, it's kind of been redefining, but I would say like where I would want to be in 5 years. I really want to have, the things that I would want to have and achieve is like kind of I always break things down in like 4 areas of life. So like your body, being, your balance of relationships, and like business. So like personal, I'd love to be in a great relationship. Would love to develop a lot more other relationships. I would love to continue to be in great elite shape, better than I am now. Business wise, I would love to have like 100 million assets under management. I would be ready to exit my business, Rad Energy, in a great way. And then like I'd love to build out like an amazing community. So really like have my brand continue to grow, but then also really to like really grow a community itself. So like in having like different offers and things within that. So like when I went out to Arizona, like I saw what they were doing out there in their community. I'm like, dude, this is really cool. Like I want to have a community like this in my own way. So that was actually really, really cool for me. So those are some of the goals that I have. And really just like sub things underneath of that. But to me, it's all about assets under management, brand, be ready to exit, build relationships, be in great shape.
What is the steps to exit this in your mind?
Increase profitability. So increase profitability, increase profit. So that dude, that's pretty crazy. So like if you look at a business under $10 million, you're evaluated basically off like, if it's an owner operated business, like what is the owner's take home pay? It's a multiple 1 to 3x of that.
Yep.
Right. And then once you get to like 2 million in profit, depending on how you run your business, what business it is, how integrated you are, and the industry that you're in, dude, your multiple can go to like 30x, sometimes higher, right? If it's software or something else, like every multiple is different, but it's like, okay, that's the goal, is to continue to get like increased profit, vertically scale. So like I want to acquire a few other brands, acquire my competition, acquire other things. So that's where I'm at right now. Is it's all about acquisition and assets under management.
What is your point of like, okay, I've scaled this product to where I wanted to where I want it to be?
At what point do I say that?
Like for this product in particular, then when do you get into hats and when do you get into all the rest of it?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question to ask. I don't know. So I think Rad Energies can be a household brand over the next few years. You know, I think it can be in 5 years, probably a 9-figure brand. You know, the goal is to get to 8 first. So, but like, you know, once you, like the cool thing about e-com is like, once you prove the concept, you can scale it pretty quickly. So like,
Are we still in proof concept mode right now in your mind?
I think I am. Like, I think the concept is started to really get validated, but now it's like, I'm really in growth mode right now. I'm improving quality right now is what I'm doing. Improving quality and then like increasing reach.
Yeah, it's interesting because our buddy Jace is huge into the EMF protection stuff. He started buying EMF underwear.
Oh yeah.
He started like he's deep in that. So I'll definitely want to put you in contact.
Part of the problem is like people aren't aware of this problem, right?
True.
So that's when I started really getting into learning into like exits and acquisitions, because I was like, you know, and that was what one of my old mentors, and part of the reason why I started the coaching thing is because he was like, dude, you've got like a level 10 skill set, but you might be in a level 1 opportunity. So he's like, how can we reposition your skills to something else? And we're like, if we don't hit these metrics, like let's bag it and do something else together. And I was like, okay, cool. And then some things happened, and but yeah, that's the thing, is like there does come a point where you got to make a decision. Like, it's not quitting, it's being smart. Like, is this worth my time? Is it not? So like, if you bear down for 5 years and it's still not making money, it's like, how can you better use your time? Right.
It's very true.
Yeah.
So with doing like all these different things, what is what do you want to make the podcast focused on? Like, is it gonna be just like your life, or is it gonna be about business?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like about the three things that I'm most interested in. So like spirituality, fitness, and business. So really just bringing on like high performing, awesome people, great conversations around those three things.
And do you see yourself, like when you think of building your personal brand, is one of the core functions about pushing this brand out to the masses in a sense? Or is this going to be a component of the multi-dimensional Jake brand?
I mean, yeah, I wasn't pushing it at all on the podcast at all. And I was like, maybe I should do a little bit, you know? And I'm like, maybe I should be doing a little bit, right? Like maybe not everything, but I should be doing way more than I am.
That's cool, man.
That's what I would say.
But it's also like when like you have people on and you're talking about like even just now, like how we're talking about like how you built the business and about Rad Energy, it's like you're putting it on just by bringing it up in conversation too.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have to like hard sell it on the podcast. Just talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's like, it's such a cool story and it's such a cool product. Like everybody wants to talk about it. Like, wow, this is a problem. Like, wow, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
wow, it's unique. So it's like, yeah, just talking about it more. That's something that like, man, and I'd love to hear y'all's input on this too, is like when you're building a brand, it's like a relationship. It's like, you know, it's hot and steamy when it first gets started, right? It's like, God, she's so hot. And after time goes by, it's like, oh, but there's all these issues, right? It's like, yeah, like you was pretty at first, but now not so much. And then it's like.
But that's why that mastermind shit is toxic, brother. Because
well,
it's like
masterminds can be great.
They are. But in the situation that we're talking about, it's like basically you got a lady and then all of a sudden you go to the strip club and you're like, damn, this is a talent out there. I had no idea. I don't like my lady anymore.
Yeah.
Because this girl's got all this stuff that I wish I could have on her. Like, why can't I have that lady? Like, what? Like, what's putting me away? And then it just starts all these fucking thoughts in your head that are like, it's interesting. If I were looking at this at a zoomed out perspective, I think you have the exact strategy. Like, dude, just fucking max your personal brand. Your personal brand will give you everything you need, and then from there, it's like I think this idea with the right influencers around it would be huge. But dude, you're right, man. I've fallen out of love with my business multiple times over the last 3 years. To where like I've made the wrong hires, and then like you feel like you're stuck. Like you feel like, oh shit, now I gotta fire this person, and then all of a sudden, like there's been days where I'd wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do a lick of work for this business right now because I feel like I don't love it.
And I was trapped. Yeah, you feel trapped.
Mm-hmm. And then
because I can't get out. Like literally, I can't just stop.
Exactly.
I actually can't. I'm supporting other people. I got stuff I got to pay for. Like I cannot escape this.
And that's where, but that again, that's the point where like the war of attrition really kicks in. Yeah. Like truthfully, the war of attrition kicks in. Like I love the idea of like, oh, you have a level 10 skill set with a level 1 opportunity. And I hear that. But what does it look like to maximize that opportunity? And then you have this skill set. Like I look at what we're building and it's like, up until we had the conversation with Brendan, who's this VC guy who like sat us down and was like, hey guys, like you're missing the boat here. Like you guys can be a $20 million a year company in 2 years if you just focus on these 3 things. And up until that point, I was like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing this for. I don't know why we're doing it. Like I was falling out of love with it. Like, why don't we go here? Why don't we do that? And again, you didn't know what you were sitting on until you actually looked at it with the right lens. Like, hey, like this is just more work. Like it's a relationship in the sense of, yes, you see all the problems. It's not hot and steamy anymore, but you're able to work through the problem so much easier because you know what you're doing. So you know what you're working on. Yeah. Like it's whole nother thing to start a whole new business because then you got to relearn the lady. You got to relearn her. You got to see what she likes, what she doesn't like. Where does she like to go out to dinner? Like the whole fucking thing. It's like, I don't want to do all that work again. Like I'd rather just sit in the pocket, keep grinding, get punched in the face 100 more times, make myself unique. Like that's something that like Hormozy talks about, where he's like, if it sounds hard to do, and everybody's saying it's hard to do it, because that means that is something that people are more likely not going to follow you. They're just not going to follow you into those deep waters, because why would they?
Yeah.
But, you know, I like the product. I want to see you fucking grow it. Whoever told you it's a level 1 opportunity.
Well, and I
think you're level,
what he was
level
saying.
10.
Yeah.
I think you're a level 10, but I don't know that this is level 1 necessarily.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, I forget exactly what he was saying, but yeah. And to me, I'm the same way. Is like, I remember, so I got divorced a couple years ago, and it was like, when I was going through all that, I was like, even though in hindsight, I'm glad we got divorced, don't get me wrong, but like, I was always like, I got more in the tank. Like, I could try this, I could try that. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't give it everything I had, right? And same thing with this. It's like, I believe this could be a 9-figure business, but I'm like, it's got the trajectory, it's got the potential in my mind. Like, I can see how it's a level 10, but I'm like, I still got stuff in the tank. Like, I can still maximize it. Like, what if it's me? Like, everybody tells me I'm a good leader and communicator, but what if I actually suck? And like, some of those things that I'm like, wow, like, maybe I thought it was this, but it's really this. And then I got somebody over here who I think he's a terrible leader, but clearly he's crushing it. So maybe there's something I can learn from him that I'm not doing, you know? And I just believe like everything that bad happens to us is an opportunity. So it's like the hurricane, what if that was the best thing ever? And like, it created this grit in you.
Facts.
Right? So like, so I'm in the same boat, and same with what you guys are going, man. I believe it can be a huge, it can be a 20 million. It could be more. Like, I really believe, and I know some other people that are building personal brand agencies, and like, it's an amazing thing to do. And like, where we're going, like, this is the future.
It is.
This is the future. And there's a lot of like ways you can stretch it too, which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna sit in the pocket. I mean, we're in some circles now because of personal branding being so new in the marketplace, where it's like really is easy to stand out. There's not that many that many competitors, where most people think like, oh, you guys are in a saturated business. I'm like, yeah, like that could be true in terms of people that label themselves as a, you know, personal branding agency, but then there's that next level of like what you actually do for people that I think differentiates you. But I don't know. We're just going to keep hammering away.
Keep hammering away. Yep. Like, I believe it'll start hitting home for
yes,
sure.
Sir. Yes, sir. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on the pod. This was a fun conversation. Started, man, I mean,
porn.
Hey. We love talking about that.
Yes, sir. Dude, appreciate you.
You guys are awesome, man. I'm excited for you. Thank you guys.
Thank you, man.